Hello, my name is Eileen Arable, and today I'll be speaking about the disadvantages of activity-based funding. As activity-based funding is a system that pays for the number and mix of patients, disadvantages and implications arise as a result of this system of healthcare funding. There are a number of things within activity-based funding that cause implications and compromise quality of care, and this includes things such as coding and the overall complexity of activity-based funding. So the main disadvantages that I'll be speaking about include early discharge from hospitals, data entry errors, certain conditions are challenged to include in the diagnosis-related groups, inaccuracy in diagnosis-related groups for mental health, and Indigenous Australians' healthcare data quality issues, and finally cheating the system, such as upcoding, which also has further implications such as added administration fees and further costs. So firstly, the early discharge from hospitals. A systematic review has found that there had been reports of an early discharge from some hospitals before it was clinically appropriate. It has been reported that a number of patients have been discharged due to the system of funding, which has also been claimed that the early discharges have resulted in hidden transfer costs to other sectors of the healthcare system. In this review, it has also been shown that some patients have been risk-selected, meaning that healthcare providers choosing to treat patients who are believed to be low cost and avoid those with high cost care needs. The early discharge would pose some disadvantages on its own, such as readmissions, quality of care, and added extra costs as a result. The data entry errors disadvantage. A study conducted in a New South Wales health district between August and October 2014 has found that out of the 6,919 data entries in the electronic documentation for the year, 7.5% of 518 entries had errors. 68.7% of the errors were related to a wrong primary activity. 14.5% were due to a wrong activity category. 14.5% were as a result of a wrong combination of primary activity and modality of care. 1.9% were due to inaccurate information on a client's presence during service delivery, and 0.4% were related to a wrong modality of care. These errors may affect the amount of funding received, which in turn jeopardize the quality of care that is offered. Next is the certain conditions which are a challenge to include in the diagnosis-related groups, such as febrile seizures. Febrile seizures are benign seizures in a presumed normal brain, triggered by high fevers, mainly in young children. Activity-based funding to government hospitals is allocated in accordance with complexity of illness and treatment. So if febrile seizures is coded without qualification, less funding is received than when accompanied with documentation of an underlying cost. 3 types of errors in coding were explored. The first one is when diagnosis of febrile seizures was applied without reference to underlying cause. The second one is the diagnosis of febrile seizures was applied to another cause of seizure, such as epilepsy. And the third was when febrile seizures were not recognized and coded as unspecified convulsions. Of the 20 admissions coded as febrile seizures, 13 were more accurately diagnosed as epilepsy and 7 as probable epilepsy. This caused implications to the number of funding, again, like the previous disadvantages. So the number of funding with the wrong coding of the febrile seizures results in less funding than when it's properly coded. So following from that is the inaccuracy in diagnosis-related groups for mental health. Diagnosis-related groups for mental health are less accurate than those for all other conditions. In addition, there is insufficient reporting of the needs of the community, the outcomes of interventions, and the volume for interventions which affect how the activity-based funding is distributed. This can be a result of the fact that mental health can be something hard to diagnose, or a number of issues that can be present at the same time. It can also be as a result of that less people access healthcare services when they have mental health issues. And this can also be seen in the Indigenous Australians' healthcare data as it possesses some issues with reporting. The Indigenous healthcare data possesses some disadvantages as not all costs of the Indigenous specific services are captured in all datasets and allocated to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander patients, potentially underestimating the cost of the treatment, which could be a cause of the lack of healthcare services being accessed by this group. The Northern Territory has undertaken a detailed costing study of the incremental cost of treatment of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and presented the results at the 2011 Australian Case Mix Conference. The study showed that cost per separation for Aboriginal people who live in remote locations were 18% higher than the urban non-Indigenous populations. And finally, cheating the system, such as upcoding. Activity-based funding is vulnerable to upcoding and or even cheat claiming for services that has not been offered. This in turn requires a lot of cost spent towards administration, IT, and auditing fees, which is another disadvantage of activity-based funding. So in conclusion, the activity-based funding system possesses a number of disadvantages that can lead to further issues with this funding system. These disadvantages and issues result in the lack of continuous offering of high-quality healthcare, as well as the added expenses and costs, which is something that activity-based funding is trying introduced to combat. Instead, it is doing the opposite. Thank you for listening.